Hey everyone, welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium. And today we're taking a look at a topic suggested by our good friend Corey Richmond. He wanted us to talk about which game in the series we think had the most untapped potential.
The game that immediately comes to mind is Skyward Sword.
Yeah, that was a top one for me too.
Did you ever play Wii Sports Resort or the Brain Age games? The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword can be just as easy to pick up and play.
The reason I feel this had some untapped potential is when I was first playing through this game the first time, obviously the control scheme was one of the most unique aspects of the game. When you fought, I think, some of those initial enemies, like those first Deku Babas, it opens its mouth this way, it's like right away you know, you gotta do the target hitting. And then you immediately find the Bokoblins, and it's like, okay, they leave themselves vulnerable on one side. And then, like, you quickly find the Lizalfos, who have, like, sort of the diagonal shield. So you either gotta go from down left or up right. I felt that was, like, the introduction to some of these enemies. And then it was like I was waiting for that next level of gameplay, and it never came.
Instead of, like, more complex combat, it was like, well, now they have lightning rods or whatever.
The cursed Bokoblins, the techno Bokoblins. And it was just more of an advancement of the same enemies. And after like halfway through the game, not even maybe a third through the game, there were no new enemies, more or less. The first several hours of that game was introducing the character to this control scheme. And then it was like, why did it not elaborate with that? Like, I felt some of the later bosses, though, like the Stallmaster you fought in the Ancient Cistern, who had the four arms,
right,
and he's going like this. I like that. That was a fun battle. It took that gameplay to a slightly new level, but that was sort of the extent of it. I felt.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they did enough with what was supposed to be. I don't know about supposed to be, but which was one of the selling points of the game. I felt. I think it kind of made it feel. It gave people the idea that maybe they could have done Skyward Sword without this control scheme, because it didn't do it well enough. You take, like, I'll make a comparison to, say, Phantom Hourglass. I don't think there are people clamoring for a Phantom Hourglass remake and saying, we want traditional controls. I feel like a lot of people who are thinking Skyward Sword should be remade with traditional controls, I think part of it is because they didn't do enough with the controls. They didn't do enough puzzle solving, enough combat specifically for what they laid the foundation for. There was not that reward at the end.
Yeah.
If you can play Wii Sports Resort or solve puzzles, this game is just as easy to pick up and play.
I feel the world in Skyward Sword, we kind of talked about that in previous entries in the Compendium, kind of felt empty a little bit and disconnected, and that took away a lot of the exploration. When we first saw the gameplay of Skyward Sword, it's like, oh, there's going to be this overworld, you fly on your loft wing. One of the initial ideas was you can venture off into all sorts of areas, but it didn't, you couldn't bring your loft wing down to the ground level, and the Skyloft was kind of empty up in the sky.
It was empty up in the sky. You couldn't fly at night.
Yeah.
There was a lot of restrictions.
So I feel with both the controls and the flying, there was an idea there, but it never got fleshed out. Not to say the game doesn't have its positives, but I think these things were just under-delivered. It didn't reach its full potential.
Yeah, it was not like the next new thing in Zelda, which I think has been an ongoing thing since they brought it into 3 dimensions. I think we talked about that a little bit in our definitive ranking. Wind Waker, for me, might be one of the biggest cases of untapped potential. This game with this 3D style that people loved Ocarina of Time. Now it's on the open sea, so okay, this is going to be a great vast sea exploration type game, but we've talked about it a lot. The Great Sea kind of under-delivers a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as being worth exploring.
There are about a half a dozen notable locations. Outset, Windfall, Dragon Roost, the Forest Haven.
Yeah.
That's the bulk of them. Then there's the few islands that have the dungeons. But then you think of, there's a lot of just random, like, sea outposts and the Four-Eyed Reef.
Yeah.
And miscellaneous islands that have one thing to do there. Sometimes it's like a treasure map that leads to a sunken treasure somewhere else, in rupees or something, a heart piece. Sometimes that's good, but there's not enough land.
Yeah.
On the Great Sea, so it's like you're sailing to these areas that they're just not very interesting.
The story of like the world being flooded almost seems kind of like reverse engineered to explain why they don't have like large areas of land in the game. Yeah, in a lot of games it's almost like they have to come up with these like story reasons to explain why the gameplay isn't quite what you want it to be, I think. I could be off on that, but that's how I feel about Wind Waker. Is like I would rather explore slightly larger islands with maybe a slightly smaller sea.
I think it was a 7x7 grid. I think that same 49 like grid points, then islands if you want to call them, could have been done in a 5x5 grid. So the distance between locations isn't as grand, and you could just condense a lot of those things that have one thing, put them together, merge them with one of the other. Why does there only have to be one thing in each quadrant?
You want to make it feel like, oh, what more could there be here, instead of I found the thing that's here now. Yeah. Off to the next.
With the amount of content they had, the world was too big. But the better solution would have been, let's add more content. You know, we talked about didn't quite have the number of dungeons that are necessary.
Yes. Yeah.
It didn't have enough islands. It didn't have enough characters outside of those few islands. It seemed they were going for the grander scope, and they were not able to populate it.
They also tried to make it the sea and the exploration like they wanted to really make you do it, so they had that Triforce hunting quest, which bogs down the game at that point, I think. Yeah. Even in the updated version. That could have been something maybe better if they like spread it out over the course of the game.
Sort of like The Legend of Zelda, maybe, where you got the first Triforce shard or whatever right away or something, and then you were collecting 9 of them along the way. Yeah. Or you could get them from the beginning, some of them.
If the game was about seeking out the buried Triforce in the sea, that would have been kind of fun, actually. Like, ooh, I get to go search in a location, but now it's like, oh, I have to fly here and fly here.
The pacing of the game, the last third of the game, we've talked about that with Skyward Sword as well. The last third of the game just seems too slow. Not enough going on, not enough to do. The world was there. They just needed to populate it more. They just didn't quite deliver on it.
To me, it all just feels like that, like a 10-year period where how do we follow up the hit of Ocarina of Time, and how do we make it bigger and grander? Yeah. Instead of like, how do we evolve the game? It was like, we need to completely blow it out of the water or something. And to me, you get games like that where it's like, it's too overblown. And it wasn't until, in my opinion, Breath of the Wild, where it's like, all right, we found a new direction, a new identity for the series. And
I feel the series as a whole, core Zelda fans like you and I, we had fun with all these games in the middle.
I love them. Yeah.
Some of them, some of their favorite Zelda games, and they all got highly acclaimed when they came out. They're all fun to play. They're great. But it felt the Zelda series as a whole, I don't think was at the pinnacle of video gaming anymore. It was a good series, a great series. Breath of the Wild has sort of put that over the top a little bit, where it's like Zelda is back.
This is a whole nother topic, so we'll talk about it some other time, but I'm interested to see like what happens going forward. If Breath of the Wild becomes like how Ocarina of Time is, if it's like other games are still in its shadow, or if it is more like Legend of Zelda, where it's like laying the groundwork for what to
open the floodgates to what's soon to come.
That's what I'm hoping. So let us know what you thought about this. Let us know how you feel about those the GameCube Zeldas and the Wii Zelda. I mean, how about Phantom Hourglass? Do you think they should remake it with traditional controls?
Yeah, let us know. No way.
Give us a like, subscribe, check out our other videos, and thanks for watching.